Welcome to the Business of Medicine podcast from Southern Medical Association. Since 1906, SMA has had a singular mission: to provide medical professionals with the resources they need to learn from each other and, in doing so, improve the overall quality of patient care. The Business of Medicine podcast is dedicated to exploring and simplifying the varied and complex business aspects of running a medical practice so that you can do what you do best: provide your patients with the highest possible standard of care. To learn more about SMA's many other services and educational initiatives, please visit us at sma.org.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Business of Medicine podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Stevenson, and today we're going to do a follow-up episode from last year on disability insurance. We are once again joined by Blake Gillies of the DI Concierge. Thanks for joining us, Blake.
Yeah, thank you, Dylan. Appreciate you guys having me back. I am honored to have a special guest with us today. Rick Mileham is a regional vice president with Emeritus Life Insurance Company. And we wanted Rick really to hop on the call and give us an insight as to really what the disability insurance marketplace today is like in really a post-COVID or during COVID pandemic atmosphere. Without further ado, I'll let Rick kind of say a couple words about himself. And then Rick, we did get a couple questions submitted to us for you. So I'll go ahead and give you the floor, let you introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
Well, thanks, Blake, and good morning, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to get on this podcast. It's a unique situation we're in the disability insurance market this day and age, and some things that we've never seen. But oddly enough, very good year last year for Emeritus as a company, and I think our competition, our carriers in the disability insurance space, also had decent years. But me personally, as Blake said, I'm a regional vice president at Emeritus. That title carries a lot of different roles at Emeritus, pretty much four major roles. I wear many hats every single day. But what I do most of the time is I manage four of our DI centers, and DI centers is really just a term we use for our disability insurance field offices, or our sales field offices. So I have four of those in my central region. I'm also responsible for DI sales in the three channels of our distribution, and that is our main agencies, and then we have those DI centers that I mentioned, and we have what we call brokerage general agencies, or just managing general agencies that sell our disability products. So I push for sales in that space. I'm also the point person for our guaranteed standard issue program, which is a topic for another day, but it's a multi-life way of writing our disability insurance product. And then I'm also charged with recruiting and expanding our footprint in the disability insurance space as a whole. So I look within my region to bring on new agencies and new producers, and that takes up a lot of time and effort, and I really enjoy that part of it. So I've been in this side of the business, the DI side of the business, since late '97 with a large competitor of ours, and I've been in a few other carriers as well, but I've been at Emeritus since February 2014. So it's been over 7 years, and it's been a great run. So I enjoy working with Blake in his office. They are the best of the best. And Blake, I appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, Rick, and it's funny that Rick, you mentioned the DI Center channel. That's really where I got my start in this business, was working at the Dallas DI Center, and that's really where Rick and I met. And here we are, 7.5 years later, doing Rick's first podcast. So,
Exactly right. Perfect.
So Rick, I guess if you can tell me from a just a straight goal standpoint, how did Emeritus do in 2020? Being that it was a COVID atmosphere, really a lot of the country was out of work for a lot of the year, or at least a couple months. So how did Emeritus,
Sure.
as a company, especially in the disability insurance marketplace, how did they perform?
That's a great question, Blake, and it's odd because it's odd just from the COVID standpoint. We've had about 4 years of very strong growth in the disability insurance market here at Emeritus, and our numbers are very good. Last year was exceptional, and it's just there's a number of reasons for that. But 2020, we were up about 20% year over year from 2020 to 2019, and that's industry leading. I look at that and I really think COVID as a whole really narrowed the focus for people saying, "Hey, this is real," and the chances of becoming disabled or not working because of injury or illness is real, and it can happen, and we're seeing it happen. And just to let you both know, Blake, you know this, Dylan, you don't know this maybe, but we sell a lot in the medical market. We sell a lot of doctors and nurses and those type of things, and those are frontline workers. So of course they are seeing it, and I think anyone that was remotely on the fence of whether or not to purchase income protection or disability insurance in 2020, they did it. If they could do it, I think they did it, and that was a reason for our sharp increases and our continued growth. There's other things that we could get into, but that was probably number one, Blake.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. And I guess I'll ask a follow-up question here. Do you think that is something that will continue on into 2021, or being that Q1 is just recently behind us, is that something that is really transforming or carrying over into 2021?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. And the short answer is yes, we do think it is continuing. Of course, corporately, I think if you guys know how corporate goals are set and how usually if you do something one year, the next year they say, oh, well, you did this much in 2020, so you should be able to do this much more in 2021, which the numbers that we were assigned for growth for this year were a bit staggering, just based on the fact that 2020 was so good, even though it was such an odd year with the pandemic. It made me nervous to say, hey, can we continue this momentum? But that being said, we are continuing that momentum, and not only from the standpoint of medical sales, but we are really growing in the executive marketplace, the executive benefit space. That GSI program that I mentioned, Blake, that has had huge growth as well. So things are going well, and I really think it all boils down to it's in the forefront. So people really now are not saying it can't happen to me, but it can happen to me. And it does. And those stories and those real life examples are out there and in the news, in the forefront of everybody's mind every day. So yeah, it is continuing, and knock on wood, we will continue to push and promote income protection to our agencies and our folks that do sell it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's very good insight there, and kudos to you, Rick, and your team at Emeritus. You guys are doing something right, because year over year, it seems like if it's not industry leading, you guys are right at the top with growth year over year. So, tell your team and everybody back at the home office, keep up the good work.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate that, Blake.
Yeah,
You don't hear it that much from the field, just because there's a lot of people from the field think they're the home office people don't get out much, but they get out, and they certainly listen to all aspects of criticism and positivity. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and no problem. And one question that was submitted, and I think this is a really a good time for it, is you are a home office employee at an insurance carrier, a pretty big insurance carrier. What is life like today at a big insurance company? Somebody working in the home office, right? Because I think things are different, for you guys in Cincinnati and in Lincoln, where your two offices are located. What is working like for an insurance company in 2021?
Well, that's a two-part question for me, actually, Blake, because prior to the pandemic, I was what we call a remote employee. So I worked from home. I have a home office here in my house prior to all this starting. And that was simply because a lot of my job involves travel. Probably twice a week, I was getting on a plane and going to visit folks like you and other other agencies and recruits throughout the central region. Um, that being said, that our home offices, Lincoln, and like you mentioned, Lincoln, Nebraska, and Cincinnati, Ohio, we had hundreds of people in each of those buildings. And when this pandemic hit mid to late March last year, we as a company, us, our competitors, and obviously other companies throughout the country had to figure out a way to get those people out of the office, out of the home office, and working remote. And that was a huge concern for me personally. That we historically haven't been the most advanced technology company, and I say that kind of laughing, but um, we were very strong, but we weren't a Google or these companies that really are focused on tech. We had a very large tech department that did an amazing job at getting hundreds and hundreds of people, and they did it in waves. So they took out the home office folks in waves, um, to number one, socially distance those left in the home office, but they eventually got every single employee out of the home office, working remote, set up with their workstations remotely. They're able to use the WebEx and Zoom meetings. It's been, knock on wood again, it's been a seamless transition. I'm amazed that we've been able to do that. And to this point, um, that that has been really good for a lot of people. Some people can't wait to get back in the office. Everybody's a little bit different with this thing. Um, my team has been just amazing remotely, and quite frankly, they've told me numerous times, we really don't want we don't have to go back to the office, because they were, Blake, this, you've been to the home office. They were sandwiched together. There was no 6 feet distancing. Those folks had cubes that were literally on top of each other. And prior to any of this, I remember, man, I don't know if I could be in that situation. Thank God I'm remote, type of thing. So um, it's been amazing. And just to answer your question, it is changed. And they do business the same way. They're just doing it from a different spot. And everybody's used to, I'm sure my dog's going to bark in the background of this podcast at some point, but doorbells ringing, dogs barking, people talking. It's just all something that's now part of the norm, right? So
Yeah, that's Rick, that's good insight. I don't even think I knew that much about how the Emeritus really had you guys going remote. So I think that was some good insight. And secondly, I would also say that it is not out of the ordinary now to hear a dog bark or something happen in a webinar.
always,
I think
always.
everybody's at home, and I think everybody's a lot more lenient with those type of things. So
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. We're still not back. There's some people that have gone. They're probably in the Cincinnati home office. There's probably 25 or 30 people that are there on a daily basis. And quite frankly, we get updated monthly from corporate saying, here's where we are about bringing people back. And just to let you know, they won't go all the way back until this whole, until the vaccines have taken hold, and schools have gone back to normal. It's going to be till the end of the year, I'm sure, before everyone, quote unquote, gets back into the office.
So, and Rick, what I the next question is really a good time for it is do you feel, or has the process for obtaining disability insurance changed since COVID? Since really March of last year, has Emeritus specifically, or the industry, done anything to really, I don't want to say help people get coverage, but people aren't leaving their houses, they aren't going to do medical exams anymore. So
Mhm.
is there something that the carriers are doing to really meet the clients in the middle here?
Yeah, Blake, and that started pretty much a week or two after the quote unquote shutdown. Companies realized exactly what you're saying, that well, there's not going to be a way to get exams, or what we call parameds or mini exams, blood and urine and those type of things, face to face. There's going to be a huge lull in that. People aren't going to want to do it. So companies, what they did, and what Emeritus did, is we loosened the reins, so to speak, on our underwriting requirements. if you go out, Blake, you know this, but the listeners may not. If you go out and buy an individual disability insurance policy, just on yourself, there's medical underwriting and there's financial requirements and financial underwriting and a fairly long application. We have what's called an easy app, which is a tele underwriting process. And what we did as far as enhancing during COVID is we loosened our requirements, so to speak, on what we require for base benefit amounts with COVID, and it continues to this day. And quite frankly, I think it's going to stick because it's been so popular. But um, currently, up to $10,000 a monthly benefit, all we require is a tele underwriting interview, which is just a tele underwriter calling the applicant, asking them the medical questions on the application, and going through the app over the phone, which is just a lot easier than having to have an agent go out and sit with you. You know, the agent's involved, obviously, but that tele underwriter, that's all they do day in and day out. And so they ask those questions to the applicant. We only get a mini exam or blood and urine when you're over 10,000 in benefit. And Blake, I know this is front and center for you, right? This is something that you do, you're involved with on a daily basis, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And Rick, I guess I want to clarify, when you say 10,000, that's 10,000 a month in disability benefit.
that's correct. That's correct. So with that, I mean, we used to be at 6,000. So right there, there was most policies with someone earning good money and buying a healthy disability insurance policy. You usually had to get that interview, blood, urine, height, weight, blood pressure, pulse, all that stuff when you were at 6,000 or more. And now we've bumped that to 10. And quite honestly, and Blake, you know this is very common throughout the industry. The carriers have all kind of, I would, piggybacked on each other as far as this type of thing goes, and it's quite honestly, it's helped the industry and helped the ease of buying disability insurance.
Yeah, and Rick, I would say this one thing you just mentioned is probably the best positive to come out of the COVID pandemic in regards to really the disability insurance marketplace. I think this is something that we fought for, I don't know, Rick, for the last 5 or 6 years, to raise these what we call telemed rates, or amounts, and we finally, through COVID, got it done. And I agree with Rick. I think those amounts are here to stay. I don't think they're going to remove them anytime soon, or I hope they don't, because it gets the overwhelming process of doing a medical exam, filling out all this paperwork. It kind of loosens some of that up,
Mhm.
and lets the insurance carrier make a decision based on facts, right? Um, so I personally think that's one of the positives that have come out of the COVID pandemic, in regards to disability insurance. Um, Rick, if I may, I'm going to ask you a kind of some, I don't want to say DI geek questions, right? But some questions that really get into, why we're doing this podcast, right? It's a follow up to our disability insurance podcast from last year.
Hey,
Um,
can I add something, just that last comment real quick
yeah,
before we get, I just have to, and I know you know this, but we have a countless number of new producers, right? So new agents, younger agents in the business, that disability insurance is something that, you really have to work at. And having these easier quote unquote underwriting enhancements make the process much smoother for an agent. In the old, I mean, I've been in this business a long time, and there used to be some agents that would write their first disability insurance policy, and it was a nightmare for them from an underwriting standpoint, from collecting financials and then getting a policy that might have a rider or a rating on it or something like that, and it soured their taste for the disability market, and they quit writing, or they just didn't do it. They thought it was too hard. This, like you said, Blake, if there's one thing positively towards our business that came out of COVID, it's these type of enhancements. And I hate that that's it took a pandemic to do that. I really don't like that, but that's the truth. I mean, it's an odd way to loosen the reins, and it certainly has helped our younger agents. So.
Yeah.
onward, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And one thing, and if I can plug me and my team here, one thing that we do extremely well is make the process of buying disability insurance very easy and seamless. I think Rick, that makes a lot of sense. Is that this is really the new, I don't want to say restrictions, or the new guidelines have really helped us as a general agent show our worth to the clients, and it lets us do that in really an easier way than we could before.
Absolutely. Yeah, no
So,
question.
so Rick, I want to, if I can, we got a couple minutes left. I want to get into some really medical specific DI
Sure.
questions, just from a kind of a broad picture, being that we're on a Southern Medical Association podcast. Is we're talking about underwriting and how people get in disability policies. Is there any special programs for either medical residents, people that professionals that are not necessarily they're not out of school, they're not earning full income, they're still in their 3 to 4 year either residency or fellowship program? What do insurance carriers, or Emeritus specifically, is there any concessions made or special programs for these residents?
Yeah, that's a great question, Blake. And the short answer is yes. Not just Emeritus, but our competitors in the space absolutely have what we call just really professionals either entering practice or residency or fellowship programs. At Emeritus, what we do is professionals that are still in a residency or fellowship, they can be considered for amounts of disability insurance, not taking into account any group disability they may have. A lot of these residents will get a group coverage from either the university or the group benefits that they're provided by their employer. We ignore all that when they're in residency, knowing that once they complete their residency and get into practice on their own, they're going to continue to make money and flourish in that marketplace. We will issue, I think, for physicians in the residency, we'll give up to 6,000 a month for these doctors, and then future increase options will get benefits up to 3 times that amount, not to exceed our issue and participation limits. And issue and participation limits are just the amounts that the companies will issue um, disability insurance per month based on the incomes of certain occupations. So that's not something we really need to get into today, but that's rich. I mean, those are for second, third year, even first year residents. And then we also have um, professionals entering practice. So their first, within 2 years of just graduating from the residency, we'll give doctors up to 7,500. We'll give attorneys up to 4, architects up to 4. So I bring in those other ones. I know it's an SMA podcast, but this isn't just for the medical market. I mean, these are, you think about the additional engineers, pharmacists, vets. Those are additional. Um, professionals entering practice limits that we'll give. So those are certain unique situations, not necessarily unique to Emeritus, but ones to take advantage of in residency.
Yeah, Rick, and I'm glad you mentioned the future increase option. I think that's something that we need to preach more of to especially people that are, I would say, under 40 years old, earning an
Yes.
income, that
Mhm.
want to buy some disability insurance coverage. I think everybody needs to at least ask about adding a future increase option rider to the policy, and kind of expand on what Rick said on that, is that future increase option gives the client the ability at any time in the future, right? So from policy year one on until at least their 45th birthday, gives them the option to buy more disability insurance coverage without any proof of medicals. So you can get, in essence, you could get a doctor that is in their third year of residency. We can get them $6,000 of base disability monthly benefit, and then we can get them the ability to buy up to $20,000 of disability benefit in the future. So that doctor or this resident is getting this policy under these what we'll call easy app guidelines today, right? So they don't have to do any medical exams. They do one medical phone call, and depending on the answers, we may order some medical records. If all of that checks out, the doctor gets the policy. They now own a $6,000 a month policy, but they also have the ability to buy $14,000 of more coverage at some point in the future. That is worth every penny on an individual DI contract. Out of our office, I would say 99%, if not more, of our policies have a future increase option included on them. Typically, the only way we don't put it on there is if for some medical reason the insurance carrier doesn't allow it. That's typically the only way we are going to write any policy through our office without a future increase option. So I didn't mean to kind of steal your thunder there, Rick, but I thought that was a point definitely worth expanding on.
No, Blake, you're the expert. I mean, that you've been in this business a long time as well, and you're on the front line. So, I am a home office employee, and while I have a lot of experience, I'm not doing this day in and day out. Well, as far as taking applications and going through the actual process, and you guys are, and that's huge. And everything that you just mentioned, if an agent isn't talking to a younger client about future insurability option, they're doing a extreme disservice. It works exactly like you said, and the only thing the company requires is proof that you're making that additional those additional amounts of money. This is a perfect segue to an annual meeting, a renewal meeting. Hey, this policy every year, this policy renews. And it gives you a chance as the agent to visit with your client and say, you have this on your policy. You made this much money last year. You now make this much more money. You're eligible for this much more benefit, and all you need to do is show us that you're making that money. And that could be a pay stub. That could be a company, something showing that financial increase. Like you said, Blake, the medical is very small, and once you have that on your policy, that's you get it with just proving your increase in financials. So very good writer. All carriers have some form of financial insurability option. They call it something different, or sometimes guaranteed insurability option, things like that, but it's all the same thing.
Yeah, and thanks, Rick. And I would say two things. If you are an insurance agent or a financial advisor listening to this podcast, talk to your clients, not only doctor clients, every client about a future increase option. And if you are a medical professional listening to this podcast and you have a disability insurance policy, call your agent up and ask them if your policy includes this future increase option. If not, see if you can get it added. And then if that doesn't work, reach out to the SMA. They have a couple different options for you as a medical professional and as a member to kind of solve your disability insurance needs. So next, Rick, I guess I want to kind of go into something you mentioned earlier. And this is really what we've talked about up to this point is really for your individual client, right? Your individual person that is looking to insure their individual or personal income. But there is also a second side to this, right? Not every medical professional is just an employee. A lot of these medical professionals own a business, they own a building, they have employees, right? There's overhead expenses that have to go on every month for this company to operate. What options out there, Rick, are available for a business owner in the disability insurance marketplace? Because I know I don't want to steal too much of your show here, but really I want you to talk about the options as a business owner that you can cover the expenses of your business and still potentially make a profit from that business if you are not working. So
Yeah, that's Blake, that's a great point. And you're talking about business overhead expense coverage, right? I mean, that's That's what we see. So there's in the disability insurance arena, there's a policy called BOE, and it's business overhead expense, and it covers you exactly from what Blake's talking about. If you own a business, a small business, you have a couple partners in the business, and you look to have the business continue without interruption if one of you happens to become disabled from an illness or an injury, um, that those policies provide a monthly amount of, say, your set portion of rent, utilities, salary replacement, those type of things. um, Blake, I know you guys have a spreadsheet you look through that says, when you talk about business overhead expense, that goes through a checklist, right? That says how much do you pay per month on those type of things, rent, utilities, and all that. So you really look at a set number. Here's what we need to protect if I can't work and go to the business and help run the business. It's a very simple idea, but it's often overlooked. And what agents will do um, when they talk to business owners, obviously, like Blake mentioned, you protect your own individual income, but you also look to protect your business expenses if you as an owner happens to become disabled. Uh, so you could probably expand on that a little bit more than I could,
Yeah.
Blake, but that's in general what we're talking about. It's a whole nother arena of disability insurance that is just not um, looked at as much. I know, Blake, it's near and dear to your heart, but I know you're pushing for that constantly, right?
Yeah, so Rick, and I can elaborate a little bit more. Typically, when we're meeting with somebody that is a business owner, we really ask them the question: Hey, if something happened to you, are we concerned with covering your personal income, or are we concerned with covering your business? Right, making sure that your employees stay employed, that your lights stay on at your company, or is it both? Right, we have solutions for both of these options. We just want to we want to solve whatever problem you have, right? So a lot of times the answer is going to be both, because the individual DI, although it has to be paid for with individual dollars, right? So you pay for that after tax with your personal income, whereas a business overhead expense policy, that money has to come from the business, right? So it's a true business expense, because you are covering, your business in case something happens.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Blake. And these policies are very similar to the individual policies, basically with an elimination period, a set elimination period, or waiting period before benefits kick in. But then these, instead of being like a 2 year, to age 65 or to age 67, to age 70 benefit type of thing, the business overhead expense policies pay out in a benefit period of like 12 months or 18 months or 24 months. So by that time, by if and Blake, I'm not sure what you all sell the most of, maybe a 24-month benefit period. Usually after the end of 2 years, you know if someone's going to be able to come back to work full time, or if they're going to be totally disabled or out for a longer period of time. So that's very, very common elimination and benefit periods for the business overhead expense policies.
Rick, our typical, and look, it depends on what the client wants, but our typical design is a 30-day wait, and we, depending on the expenses, right, you can get up to $50,000 of monthly expenses covered.
Right.
So we typically illustrate a 12-month benefit period. So that means you get the money for 12 months, a 30-day waiting period. So you start getting those payments 30 days after your event of disability. And one point worth noting that I think it's important for a business owner to understand is that an individual disability policy is an indemnity policy, right? So every month that you are disabled, the carrier will send you a check, right, for X amount of dollars every month until you are able to work full time again. What a business owner policy does is really a reimbursement policy. So on that first month of disability, the insurance carrier will send you your full business overhead amount. Let's say it's $50,000. they're going to send you that first $50,000 to cover any of your expenses that you may have incurred. But then any month after that first month, you as the business owner need to submit expenses for that business every month. And as you submit those expenses, the insurance carrier will send you a check back to reimburse you for that. And the reason I bring that up is because it's worth noting that, let's say that in January your expenses are 50,000, but in February they're 30,000. Well, that gives us an additional cushion in March that we could get up to 70,000 of monthly expenses covered, because a disability business overhead policy works as a reimbursement, and it's a rolling number of that amount of money for that benefit period. So I know, Rick, we try not to get too much into the disability insurance weeds here, but I can't help myself sometimes.
That's a great point, that Blake. That's those are the little things. That's why you're an expert in this marketplace, and folks lean on you for those are the little things, right? So bringing that to the forefront and discussing it with clients and agents are the little things that that's why you're DI concierge, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's it.
Well,
That's what
look,
you bring to the table.
we love doing this. We've like to think we're pretty efficient at doing it. So you're right. I mean, this is a passion of ours, for sure. And Rick, I guess I got one more question, and this is going to be right in your wheelhouse here. So you mentioned briefly about guaranteed standard issue, and I know that product for Emeritus is not offered to medical professionals. However, can you explain to us how a doctor that owns a clinic with, let's say, 10 or 15 employees outside of the medical professionals, how you work, or how you see advisors working with a business owner at a medical facility that develops or designs a plan that can cover their staff, people, and the medical professionals, right? I believe GSI is the perfect way to do that. But I really want you to explain how that process works.
Yeah, that's a great point, Blake. And there's so much in that, number one, in that space, in the medical market space, in the medical professional space, and the executive space, right? In the executive benefit markets, and the really what it boils down to, Blake, and this, it's a combination of group disability, LTD, long-term disability, putting in a group policy to take care of your employees, to take care of the folks that are help running the business, and that takes care of a good amount. It's a good basic starting point to put in some group LTD. Then what agents look at is they look at maybe it's the doctors, or maybe it's the attorney partners, or it's the high income earning executives. Are they getting enough coverage from that group LTD? And I say that because the group LTD is a good base, but there's three things surrounding a group LTD policy that drive the supplemental or the GSI market, meaning there's a gap that's there that allows you to provide more coverage for those that aren't earning enough, getting enough coverage from their group. The three things I'm talking about with group LTD is number one, taxes. If the employer pays for your group LTD policy, and you go out on claim and you're not an owner of the business, those benefits are taxed as regular income. 90% of the time, most people don't realize that, meaning they think if they got a group policy from their employer, they're good, they're taken care of at 60%. And that's not the case. I mean, I've been in numerous meetings where you could see the look on people's faces when an agent said, "Do you realize that your benefit is taxed as income?" They're like, "What? What is what are you talking about?" So, explain it. So somebody that thinks they may be getting 10,000 a month tax free from their group LTD, that's not the case. Taxes come out and you're getting not 60%, you're getting 40 or 45% or less. So that's number one. Most LTD plans are taxed. The benefits are taxable. A lot of the group LTD plans don't cover incentive compensation. So bonuses, commissions, any incentive or variable comp is usually not covered by, those LTD plans. So that's in a lot of cases that I see and that we see in this region, we have people that have this base salary, but most of their income is coming from bonuses or commissions or sharing in the business and the profitability of a business. And LTD is very rarely covering all that. So once again, you're going to need a supplemental policy to cover that. So you got taxes, you got incentives, and then the final thing on group LTD is the maximums, the monthly maximums. So Blake, you've seen this. You see this day in and day out. Most of the time, those maximums on the group side are anywhere from 5,000 a month of disability benefit to 10,000 to 15,000. Some of the larger corporations with very high earning incomes, maybe they might have a $15,000 a month benefit or $20,000 a month benefit. Those type of things, but that's pretty rare. But most of the time it's 6 to 8 to maybe 10. Even some of the larger law firms, we only see 10 or 15,000 max. So what you have to do is you have to look at, an agent will say, is that enough coverage for those high earners? And it could be salespeople. It could, obviously the medical market is huge in this because the medical, the doctors are earning this much money every year. And are they getting enough from their group? And 9 times out of 10, they'll have some type of supplemental, either individual or getting it through this guaranteed standard issue program. So the maximums are something to look at as an agent. Do those maximums after tax give you, those high earners, 60 to 65 to 70% income replacement? And the answer is usually no. So there's that space for Blake, what you're talking about, that the guaranteed standard issue program, long story short, is a streamlined underwriting program. It's a little bit easier way to get individual disability coverage. And 90% of the time, we're layering that on top of group disability. And once again, we're getting into the weeds a little bit, but that's all it is. It's supplementing already in force group LTD for those high earners that aren't getting enough. And I deal with it on a daily basis. We have a lot of folks that are focusing on that market. So they're looking at their own block of business and saying, hey, it's time to look at this law firm and see what kind of guaranteed standard issue program we can get in there for the high earners. And Blake, you mentioned it. I mean, medical professionals are front and center. We get asked about it all the time because our contract is so strong. We sell a lot in the medical market. A lot of our individual disability insurance, it's just underwritten. We have so much of it that we currently do not do it in the guaranteed standard issue space. But I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah.
You never know what changes could happen down the road.
That's very true. Well, look, Rick, that's all I had for you today. I think I think those of you who submitted some questions for us and for Rick, I think if you want to get an idea of really how the SMA plays a role into individual disability insurance, group insurance, or group disability insurance, I would take a look at our first podcast we did last year. We actually had a member from the SMA sign on and really give us a testimonial about what he thought about the disability claims process with the SMA and really how the SMA has helped him and really pushed that through for him. So if you're looking for some really hands-on information or real life stories, tune into the first podcast. But I can tell you that today I was very impressed, Rick, with what you had to say. I learned a couple things myself. And I really, on behalf of the DI Concierge, I thank you for taking some time today. And I know the SMA is very thankful for you taking some time and really, hopefully, explaining the ins and outs of disability insurance, and hopefully taking some of that hard to get atmosphere or hard to get thinking around disability insurance. Let's try to move that to the side, because it's really not that difficult. You just need to find somebody or someone that understands the process and can explain to you and to your client how it works. So
Yeah, Blake. Well, I certainly appreciate, and I love the opportunity of hopping on this podcast. It's a new, unique situation for me, but very similar to what we're used to now with the Zoom calls and the WebEx. But if you bring up such a great point, and I'll end on that too. Just for the agents out there that might be listening, like Blake said, it's really not a difficult process if you've gone through it a couple times. But I say this all the time, that the main thing about income protection and disability insurance is really just asking the question. And I always hear the best of the best tend to use the phrase, they'll ask the question right out, what have you done to protect your most valuable asset? The ability to earn an income for most people is something that's not thought of in the forefront as their most valuable asset. They think of their home, their cars, those type of things, when really all that stuff rests on their ability to earn an income. And when an agent asks an open-ended question like that, what have you done to protect your most valuable asset? What have you done to protect your income? Most people are taken back a little. And even as an agent, Blake, that's why I've sent you referrals numerous times on folks new in the business, and I want them to talk to an expert. And Blake, by certainly now, is one of our best in the disability arena, and that's based on, he knows the products, he knows the processes, he knows how to get things done and issued and through the house, and you're becoming a GSI expert as well. You've done a lot of these GSI programs, and you and I work on a lot of cases together. So. Um, just ask the question and just make sure you've checked that box with clients, because when something happens, somebody gets sick, or God forbid, in a car wreck or something like that, and they're the first person they call when they realize they're going to be out of work is their agent, saying, what kind of coverage do I have? And you do not want to be in a situation where you're hemming and hawing and not knowing what they have from a disability insurance standpoint. So
and,
once again, next month, Disability Insurance Awareness Month is May. This is a perfect time to talk to everybody about it, clients, agents, and all that. So Blake, I appreciate the opportunity.
yeah, Rick, thank you very much for your time. And I'm looking forward to, when things open up a little bit more and we can, see each other again. Man, it's been too long, but thank you very much for the time, Rick. I personally can't say enough about what you and your team, do for us on a daily basis. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Until next time.
We hope you enjoyed The Business of Medicine. For more episodes in this series or SMA's The Practice of Medicine podcast, go to sma.org/podcasts or subscribe to us on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about SMA's mission, please visit sma.org, and thank you for joining us.